check out our streaming schedule for this week. We've got tons of content in terms of the NFL and college football, as we're going live just about every single day this week. So make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single moment where we go live. And now, on with our feature presentation. October 20th, 2024. It's week 7 of the NFL season, and we head to SoFi Stadium for this interconference battle between two teams desperately needing a win, the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams. For the main team in our story, the Raiders, this season is quickly falling apart for them. After back-to-back blowout losses at the hands of the Broncos and the Steelers, they find themselves sitting at 2-4, needing to get a win in this game against the Rams to avoid dropping to 2-5 and making it almost impossible for them to get back in the thick of things, especially with the game against the undefeated Chiefs coming up after this. It's not as though the Rams are a good team. They enter this game with just one win themselves, so even though this game is on the road, this is a winnable opportunity, provided that, you don't do anything stupid. And I think you already know where this one is going. But before I tell you what happened, especially if you didn't watch this game because you were watching the Chiefs 49ers game at the same time, we talk about all things NFL every single day on this channel with a new video and a live stream basically every single day. So if you like that sort of stuff, then be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Thanks in advance for your support as we try and hit 70,000 subscribers. The Raiders find themselves down 20-12 facing 3rd and goal at the Rams' 4-yard line after a long drive that's taken up nearly 7 minutes of time. After Gardner Minshew, replacing an injured Ian O'Connell, throws to rookie tight end Brock Bowers for no gain, it's 4th and goal, and the decision is obvious. Down by 8, you need to go for it here. Unfortunately for Vegas, they get called for a false start penalty, so with under 3 minutes, it's still 4th down. Only this time, they need 9 yards. Get the touchdown on the 2-point conversion, and you tie this game up. Don't, and it remains a 1-score game. Biggest play of the game. Let's see what the Raiders have in their playbook for this one. Let's see what... Oh, come on! You're kicking the field goal? You're kicking the freaking field goal!
Carlson. And his 5th field goal is perfect.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something you look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something you look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Las Vegas Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce. Is this man trying to coach himself out of Vegas? Is this man trying to sabotage his chances of getting a second season? And is he daring Mark Davis to fire him? No coach has seen a bigger hit to his stock over the past year than Pierce, who went from a guy that the Raiders couldn't afford to get rid of to a guy that the Raiders can't afford to have on the staff. Plain and simple, this man sucks at in-game management. This man has no feel whatsoever for the game. We saw that in week 1 the last time he was at SoFi Stadium in a game against the Chargers, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And we saw that here during Sunday's disaster that all but eliminated the Raiders from the playoffs. So with that being said, let's take a look at why kicking the field goal with under 3 minutes to go on 4th and goal at the 9-yard line when you're losing by 8 points is a really bad idea, turning a 1-score game into a 1-score game. And I think the best way to talk about why this is stupid is to compare this to a video I made last week, because I can already see some people saying, wait a second, time out. Didn't you not hate this move last week? And yes, we saw a similar situation in the Browns-Eagles game last week, where Kevin Stefanski, with the Browns down by 8 points, decided to kick a field goal to turn a 1-score game into a 1-score game. And ultimately, it didn't pan out, as the Browns never got the ball back. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And I defended Stefanski for doing that, saying that that was the right move. So why am I going to criticize Pierce for doing the same thing? Am I a giant hypocrite? Well, the reason why is because they're not even close to the same situation. The only thing about them that's the same is that they kicked the field goal on 4th down to turn an 8-point game into a 5-point game. Outside of that, the situations were not even remotely similar. For one, when the Browns did it, there were 4 minutes left on the clock. When the Raiders did it, there were less than 3 minutes on the clock. A full minute difference is a pretty big freaking deal. That's 2 extra plays. The Browns could get the back without having to burn any timeouts. The Raiders basically had to go all their timeouts to have any chance, even if everything went perfectly for them. One of the reasons I defended Stefanski was because the Eagles would need to get 3 first downs just for the Browns to never be able to touch the ball again. Even if they got 2 first downs, the Browns would have time to work with. 1 first down for Philly was fine. The Browns were not in a spot where they needed to force a 3 and out. But with under 3 minutes left, yeah, if the Raiders give up 1 singular first down, depending on when they give it up, the game is basically over. A 5-play drive, and the Raiders are getting it back with under a minute to go, needing to drive the length of the field with absolutely nothing at quarterback, begging the question of which gives you a better chance at winning, needing 9 yards on 1 play, or needing 90 yards on about 7 plays, or something along those lines. There was also a difference in how the defenses were playing. When the Browns did this, their defense was actually playing really well and was forcing 3 and outs. Philly was in quick drives, and history was saying that the Browns would be able to get the ball back with plenty of time. When the Raiders did this, their defense was not playing that well. On the previous drive, the Rams picked up 54 yards on 9 plays. 3 drives beforehand, the Raiders allowed a quick touchdown. On their previous 4 drives, the Raiders forced a grand total of 0, count them, 0 3 and outs. And on the previous 10 drives, the Raiders only forced 2 3 and outs. Flow of the game and context of the game is so important, and there was nothing to suggest that the Raiders were going to get a 3 and out. If the Raiders defense forced 4 straight 3 and outs, alright, we might have some sort of conversation here. Not a good one, but some sort of conversation. But based on everything we saw, that's not exactly the unit I'm hinging everything on, I'll put it that way. And there was also a difference in terms of the spot. The Browns needed to pick up 15 yards to get to the end zone. That's 4th and really long, and if 4th and 15 is tough to convert, it's even tougher when you're going into the end zone and the back boundary is acting as an extra defender. The Raiders? They needed 9 yards. 9 yards. You have plays in the playbook for 9 yards. 9 yards is more than doable to pick up. Do I like my chances of converting a 4th and 9? Not really, the edge goes to the defense, but it's better than my chances of converting a 4th and 15. It's manageable, and that's especially true when your offense converted multiple 3rd downs from 9 or further yards earlier in the game already. In fact, the last time the Raiders were faced with needing exactly 9 yards to get the first down was 2 freaking hours ago! Guess what? They converted! You don't trust your offense? We need a touchdown to get 9 yards, but you do somehow trust your defense to get the ball back by forcing a 3 and out, or something close to that, and then trust your offense to drive 90 yards down the field with no timeouts left and roughly 1 minute to go? Explain that one to me, coach. Explain it. Explain how needing an average of way over 9 yards per play, along with a defensive stop, is better than needing 9 yards on 1 play to tie the game. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. At the end of the day, let's break down what this is. The Raiders, by kicking the field goal, turned a 1-score game into a 1-score game. If they got the touchdown to go, they had a chance to tie it up. If they missed the touchdown, while that would stink, if you get a stop, the Rams are punting out of the back of their own end zone, and you're likely getting the ball back for one final drive near midfield. If you don't get a stop, the game is over. Meanwhile, by kicking the field goal, you still need a touchdown. If you get a stop, the Rams are not punting the ball out of the back of their own end zone, and you'll likely have to drive the length of the field to get a touchdown anyways. If you don't get a stop, the game is over. You put your defense at a disadvantage by doing this. You put your offense at a disadvantage by doing this. You put your entire team at a disadvantage by doing this. There is no reason, none whatsoever, to kick the field goal in this spot. It was stupid when the Raiders did it last year down by 8 against the Steelers with Josh McDaniels as their head coach, which you'll learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And it is stupid now. Was it as stupid as when McDaniels did it? God, no, but that's not saying much. After the game, naturally, Pierce was asked about why the heck he kicked the field goal instead of trying for the touchdown. You can imagine his response, which is about as predictable as the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, or the Harlem Globetrotters beating the Washington Generals. Yada yada yada, we were going to go for it, and then the penalty backed us up. We figured if we got to stop, we'd have no chance. You know the drill, you know how it goes. Take a listen.
Yeah, we did, but we had 3 timeouts, so we figured just like we did, we get the ball back. For those guys, I think with a minute and 40, minute 30, minute 41, whatever it was on the clock, give our offense a chance again to go down there in a 2-minute drill with no timeout. So that was the thought process. If it was, 4th and 4, we get the penalty, as you saw, we were going for it.
Yeah. Tell me you're not qualified to be a head coach and have no feel for the game without telling me you're not qualified to be a head coach and have no feel for the game. You trust your offense to get 80 to 90 yards, but you don't trust them to get 9 yards. You trust your defense to get a stop when the Rams have the entire field to work with, but don't trust them to get a stop when they're likely going to be super conservative in their play calling and their packages because they don't want to risk going into their own end zone and taking a safety. My head has hurt all season trying to understand and decipher just what the heck Antonio Pierce has been doing. And it's not getting any easier, I know that much. The situation involving the Raiders and the game between these two teams behind me right here is history repeating itself all over again. It is the Ray Williamson situation in Tampa Bay down to a T. Think about it. In Tampa, you had a veteran head coach in his second stint who flamed out in spectacular fashion, who got fired in the middle of the season. Williamson took over as the interim, and the players played hard under him. They really liked him. He was a player's coach, and the Bucs had no choice but to keep him and forego their coaching search and take the interim tag off. Then they proceeded to stink up the joint, and Williamson got fired after 1 season as the permanent head coach in charge. It feels like Vegas is on a very similar course. The only question is whether Mark Davis will be able to afford keeping Pierce on the staff, even if he's not the head coach anymore. Because we know Mark Davis, he's pretty cheap as it is, and I have no clue if he's going to want to have another coach on the payroll that's not doing anything. But right now, the Raiders are in football hell. So what do we learn from all of this? If you're down by 1 score, it's late in the game, you need a reasonable amount of yards that is in no way whatsoever impossible or impractical to attain, and you need to achieve that thing in order to cut into the number of possessions that you need, then do that thing. Points are not relevant. Possessions are relevant. You don't need to score, you need to make up possessions. And that's a huge difference that Antonio Pierce, simply put, fundamentally does not understand. If the flow of the game dictates that you're likely going to be screwed if you give the ball back due to the clock and how everything's gone and the field position, then you should not be giving the ball back without achieving what you need to do if you can afford to do that and it is attainable. Just because something happened the previous week and it looks similar on the surface doesn't mean it is the same, and doesn't mean that you should model it. And if you're Antonio Pierce, hopefully you didn't put down a long-term deal on that house of yours, because you might be needing to hit the housing market and the job market relatively soon. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have not done so already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and check out my other channels, JG8 for the history of college football, JG7 for the history of baseball, and JG9 News, where we talk about all things happening in the NFL. Join me every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we'll play live NFL trivia for cash prizes. And make sure to join me live, as we're on stream just about every single day. And thanks to all our Patreon members and our YouTube members for helping out the channel. See how you become a member and show your support financially in the description down below.